Napoleon's army is on the move. They cross the border toward Brussels and attack the Prussian army, led by Field Marshal Blucher, and force them into retreat. Napoleon is now marching toward the British Allies, led by the future Duke of Wellington.
Wellington, who was primarily a defensive master, looked at the ground and he said, since Napoleon is on the offensive, where do I want to defend?
Wellington chooses a battleground just to the south of a village called Waterloo.
The battlefield of Waterloo was basically a wide valley running from west to east. To the north stands the Allied army. Looking directly at them, you have the French army, a massive army.
The position that Wellington chose to accept battle from Napoleon was behind a ridge line, and that allowed him protection from direct fire from artillery, from direct observation.
His biggest advantage, he picked the battlefield. He knew the ground, and he knew how he would defend it.
Wellington expects a full French assault at dawn, but to his surprise, it doesn't come.
It had been raining for days. That, of course, limited the mobility of cavalry and the ability of cavalry horses to pull guns into position. So the battlefield favored the defender. In other words, Napoleon had a problem.
If Napoleon waits for the ground to dry out, his army may fight more effectively, but it may also give the fleeing Prussians time to circle back and join Wellington.
Peut-être devriez-vous donner l'ordre d'attaque?
Je donnerai l'ordre quand je jugerai que c'est le bon moment. Jusque-là, nous attendons.
Armchair generals have argued for decades about Napoleon's decision to begin the battle late in the day. While some believe the muddy ground was the main issue, not everyone agrees.
Napoleon certainly does seem to have grown more weak and lethargic in his later days. He had no real combat experience recently. Some argue that he just lost the edge.
But there is evidence of a more compelling reason for the emperor's delay: illness.
He had pituitary problems, he had hemorrhoids, he had stomach problems that were not very well diagnosed. He was vomiting throughout the night, and how much sleep he even got is really in question.
Napoleon's ill health was kept secret from everyone until nearly 100 years after Waterloo, when documents revealed the serious condition of his health. Rather than fighting a battle to save his empire on that morning, Napoleon should probably have been in a hospital. With Napoleon refusing to give orders and the sun already high, Marshal Ney begins to take command of the French army on his own. His first order is an assault on the walled chateau called Hougoumont. Wellington's defensive line stood on a ridge at Waterloo. But in front of the line stood two fortified buildings, Hougoumont and La Haye-Sainte. These were key elements in Wellington's defensive strategy against Napoleon. Troops and sharpshooters in the walled chateaus would prevent the French army from a simple advance over open ground.
It would divide up the force of the attack coming forward, splitting up the troops into channels that you can then bombard with artillery.
Under Ney's orders, 4 regiments of infantry marched toward Hougoumont. If they can capture it, the left side of the British line will be undefended and open to attack. Inside the chateau are a handful of men from the Coldstream Guards, an elite British regiment. At 10 a.m., the French attack. The fighting at Hougoumont is fierce, but by 11:30 that morning, the British repel the first assault and prepare for a siege.
Well done, men.
The first shots have been fired. At Waterloo, the battle is underway. Despite the Allied success at Hougoumont, Wellington knows he'll need the support of the Prussians to beat Napoleon.
Are we certain that the Prussians are going to come?
As certain as one can be of anything in war, which is certain of nothing at all. Perhaps the French defeated them yesterday, and that's why there's no rush to attack.
But the wrath of Napoleon has just begun. Soon the Allies will get a taste of his most powerful weapon. Blood is about to be spilled on the fields of Waterloo. A French attack on a chateau called Hougoumont, ordered by Marshal Ney, has failed. But it has signaled the start of the Battle of Waterloo.
C'est quoi ce coup de feu? Qui les a tirés?
Une escarmouche, Votre Altesse.
Où ça?
Sur notre gauche, le château. Je crois que nous progressons.
Ah oui, ça a commencé.
Votre Altesse, est-ce que...
Oui, commencez! Commencez! Faites goûter les Anglais nos canons de 12. Allez-y!
Hold that line, lads.
At noon, the French artillery opens up on the British lines.
Hold the line, lads!
80 cannons firing 12-pound solid shot rip through the British lines. But Wellington does not allow the British to fire back. He will save his cannon shot for when the French infantry and cavalry approach his lines.
The ricochet effect was one of the great things about the solid shot. Even on its third bounce, it was still doing devastating effects. Could still break a leg or an ankle.
Hard pounding, gentlemen.
Indeed, sir.
Or we will see who can pound the longest.
"20 kilometers away, Blücher and the Prussians are regrouping after being beaten by the French the day before. But rather than retreat east back to Prussia, the wily general heads north.
Wir müssen mit Wellington in der Verwundung bleiben.
Herr General, dies ist es dir, es ist.
Wer schreit zum Ton der Kanonen?
It is estimated that over 500 men were killed in this opening salvo of the battle. Then, at approximately 1 o'clock, Napoleon's guns stopped. With the British troops reeling from the artillery assault, Napoleon quickly assesses the situation and plans the best way to attack the soldiers on the ridge.